On the speed chuck, periodically the set of teeth needs to be replaced. It's just a matter of giving them a quarter turn. When you go to reinstall them, push them back in and turn them and back into the original position. The other things on the 300 that we periodically need to do, periodically on these they need to be greased, so remove the lever on either side of the tray. 2 grease nipples on either end of the machine here, one there, one back there.
It's full already, that one. There we go. Okay.
Today we'll be threading 1/2 inch to 2 inch pipe on the rigid 300 with quick opening dies. Have a look on the end of your full width dies on here. We've got this one here is good for 1/2 and 3/4 inch pipe. On the other one, we're looking at it faintly, as you can see on there, that is 1 inch to 2 inch pipe. So when we go to adjust it between different pipe sizes, right now this one is set up, it's kind of deceiving. It says 3/4/2. If you have the 1/2 and 3/4 dies on there, you'd be using the 3/4 mark for 3/4 inch, the 1/2 inch mark for 1/2. But on this one here that has 1 to 2 inch, my 1 inch pipe would be threaded there, 1.25 inch would be on this line, 1.5 inch and 2 inch. So right now I have it set up for 2 inch pipe. Always do a test piece before you start. Your pipe should ideally spin on by hand 3 to 4 turns. I personally prefer 3.5 turns. If after threading it I find that I can only get 2 turns on by hand, you need to adjust the dies to take off more material. So to take off more material, I would be moving it closer towards a smaller pipe size. That would be an extreme amount to move it, but if I started out here, a slight movement as that much right there might be the difference between 3 threads and 4 threads. Tighten it back up and it's ready to do another sample piece. The other thing to notice on these ones here, to adjust them, it's a matter of moving this lever out, but to actually remove the dies themselves, this one little tab that's painted yellow on ours needs to come out of that track. Once it's out of the track, we can slide this all the way over, turn it to open, and these will all slide out. Again, they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. They also have a faint line on here which says insert to line. That line that you insert to is coming in from the back, so it lines up right flush with the outside of the heads. Once you have it lined up from there, if it's lined up perfectly, you'll be able to close it. Sometimes they move around on you. One of them right now is not in line. Probably that one there. Looks bad. Good. Good. That's how far out they are. Again, this one here, I'm going to move it out just a tiny bit, just to show you that how finicky they can be. Of course, now it wants to work. So this, again, has to be far out of here and as far as you can slide it this way. Again, even being out that far will not always allow you to lock it up. Every once in a while, it will pull it in if it's close. So at that point, we have them all in. We're going to take it over to the machine. I'm going to start out threading 1.25 inch pipe. So I'm going to set my line right there on 1.25 inch. I need an oil bucket. Put your pipe through the machine. If you have a very long piece of pipe stand, good idea to support the end of it. Don't over tighten the one in the rear there. It's just there simply as a guide. And then on the front end of the speed chuck here, tighten it and then give it 2 bangs like that. Keep in mind, if you're cutting a piece off of this end here, when you cut through it, it has a danger of falling, knocking your bucket over, landing on your foot, or skidding across the floor. So just be aware that that could be happening. Allow the machine to come for a full stop before you start getting your hands in and around this area. This machine, if you're not paying attention, will do a fair amount of damage to your hands and your forearms. The next thing we need to do is ream our pipe. If your pipe is sticking out far enough, the reamer doesn't need to be adjusted. Right now, you can see this is not able to lean in far enough just because of the placement of the pipe being so close to the speed chuck. So if I push this lever on the top and bring the reamer in, it's now suitable to ream out the end of the pipe here. So, as we talked about earlier, same as on the drop head dies, I'm going to wind the pipe on until I hit my last chaser right here, this last tooth on it. Then I'm going to let it go one more full turn around. When you go to let it do a full turn, sometimes you can see a marking on the pipe and watch that spin around. Other than that, you can look for the lettering on the face of the speed chuck. And as that comes around, all you're going to be doing once you do your last revolution is lifting this arm up and out of the way. Don't stop the threads, stop the machine, and then lift that up and slide it out. You'll end up with a big Brillo pad on the end of your pipe. After I've started this and it gets on about 2 threads, I don't have to keep pulling on this lever arm either. Before we put our fitting on to see if we can get our 3 to 4 turns, you want to make sure you actually have 11 threads on there. The last thing you want to do is have the wrong number of threads, turn it on and only get a couple of turns or too many turns, and then make another thread and have the opposite thing happen to you. So you always want to make sure you have the same comparison on it. So I usually just take my fingernail or a pencil and I click them off as I go. I've got 11 threads on there, so now we'll grab our coupling. I actually find it easier if I put the fitting on hand tight and then I count the number of turns as I'm pulling it off. You can do it the other way if you want. There's no right or wrong way. All we want to do now is count the number of turns that we have off. So if I look at this bar on the side and I spin that one around, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That one came right off on 4 threads. I prefer mine to be a little bit tighter than that. I'm going to try and adjust this down to about 3.5 threads right now. 3.5 turns by hand. Have a close look where I actually am marked on here. I'm almost right bang on that line. So if I move it towards the 1-inch side, I'm going to take off more material. Then I'd probably be able to wind it on more turns right now. I was at 4 before and I'm aiming for about 3.5. So I'm going to take less material off. So I'm going to go towards the larger side. So I'm going to come back this way on it. And this is going to be a very tiny movement. Probably no more than that right there. So again, the first thing I want to do is count my number of threads to make sure I have a pipe that's at least consistent and similar to compare it to the last one that I did. Now I'm going to remove this one off. 1, 2, 3, 3.25. I can live with 3.25. Like I say, anywhere between 3 to 4 seems to be an acceptable standard. Ideally, I would go for actually 3.5, but you can see how I moved that thing like less than probably not even 1/2 of a millimeter to go from 4 down to 3.25 turns. So this is probably the most important part of doing any threading project, is having the equipment set up properly so it's consistent and ready to go for you.